Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang meaning literally community of truth, a Sanskrit word. But what it's speaking of is any time two or more people on the spiritual path come together to share their journey with one another. There's something very catalytic, very inspiring, and very strengthening when we come together and share our journeys and do spiritual practices together, but satsang is just being together. And one of the beautiful uses of the internet is that this allows us to connect our energy, our spirits and consciousness with friends around the world in other continents and countries. And the Flowering Heart Satsang does exactly that. There's no formal membership. We're just drawn together because we're all on the path of awakening and the flowering of the heart. In the process of awakening, we discover deep within ourselves our true essence, sometimes called our higher self, our divine self. It's always been there. It's the center of our being from which everything emanates in our lives. And it turns out that it's one with Source. It is absolutely divine, God-realized, and completely awakened. It is the fountain of enlightenment itself. No one had to give it to you. All you had to do was dive deep enough inside to come to that place. And when we make contact there and we open ourselves to it, it begins to flower from the inside. Light and transforming grace begins to radiate from the center of our spiritual heart out through all the layers of our being, transforming spirit, soul, body, relationships, and the world itself around us. So, clearly that's what the world needs these days. The world needs people whose hearts are flowering, who have gotten over the insanity of a civilization of competition, conflict, and violence, and have begun to give birth to a new earth, a new world rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. That can only come about through the authentic awakening and flowering of the heart. It can't come through religion or philosophy or politics or any kind of a movement like that. We really actually need to be transformed. As our hearts flower with unconditional love, that love dissolves, it completely banishes fear from our being. When we stop fearing, we stop competing, and we stop being in conflict with one another. We stop warring with one another. In fact, we're in love with each other. And we discover that we're family. Even deeper than that, there's one of us here. There is one universal being. Call it Source, call it the light, call it God, call it the divine, whatever you want to call it. There is one divine source that is universal being, universal consciousness, and it is expressing itself through all of us, shining through all of us. We're all sharing in that being. And if we could, enough of us get down to bedrock, we would just be in love and fear would dissolve. It's also very contagious. Positive consciousness is much more contagious than negative consciousness. And no one will want to argue that negativity is pretty contagious. I mean, look at the state of the world and all the conflict and all the struggle that people are in on every level. And, well, it's because our hearts need to flower. The species needs to flower. And so we're not just family, we're actually one with each other. And awakening to that is the future of the world. So welcome aboard. We open it at this point, the satsang, to questions and answers about the spiritual path, about meditation, about awakening, about divine union, about the ups and downs of the process that you may be experiencing on the spiritual journey. It's a radical path, and And there are times it can be quite challenging. That's when we really need one another. And we need to share what we're going through with our brothers and sisters on the journey. And inspiration will come to us through them. I know everything we need is already within us, and yet it's set up so that none of us can go off by ourselves and go, I've got it all, I don't need anybody. We need one another. We complete one another, even though we all have the whole thing inside. It only comes alive and fully manifests when we put our pieces together. And so that's constantly drawing us together into spiritual community like this. But please feel free to post a question in the comment box if you're on Facebook, or you can do it on the chat if you're at Vimeo. I'm afraid if you're at LinkedIn or YouTube, there's no place to enter a question. You can come to Facebook, though, or go to Vimeo and do it there. Want to remind everybody, if you would give us a like or a love, then we get to later on see your name. If you don't write anything in the chat, we'll still know you are with us and send you some special love and blessing at the end. What else? The Flowering Heart Blessing. We're sending continually through the webcast what we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It's something that the Divine gave to us to share with people about 6.5 years ago. And it was a turn for us. We've been sharing another kind of blessing. And I've been involved in sharing blessing and energy and consciousness transmission for going on 50 years now. And they're all beautiful. I mean, they're just all beautiful. The Taoist, the Christian, the Tibetan, the Hindu Dikshas and Shaktipat, all beautiful stuff. Reiki, beautiful. The Divine, we were at a point of, we call it recombobulation. And we just sort of knew the Divine was calling us to do something different. We weren't sure what it was. And then the Divine just said, here, take this and give it away. Literally, the Divine said this blessing, the Flowering Heart Blessing, is, as many of the others are, its purpose is to bring about awakening, transformation, and the flowering of the heart. It can also bring about physical healing. It can bring about soul healing from torment and conflict. It can bring about the healing of relationships, which is so important. But in that way, it's like some other blessings, but the Divine said, this one is mine. This does not belong to any master or avatar or saint or spiritual organization or religion. It's mine, and I'm giving it away freely. It's a gift of grace. So give it to people and don't charge for it. Tell them it's from me. It isn't associated with any particular faith tradition or teaching. In a way, it's associated with all of them because they all are expressions of the wisdom and the light of Source, attempting to instruct people and help them open to deeper truth. But this is from the Divine directly. It's free. It's a gift of grace. We don't charge for this, and no one else does either. And when you receive it, which you are right now, and many of you have received it many times before, you are immediately initiated to be able to share it with others. So please do, at a distance in meditation or prayer, or in person, through direct connection, if with the consent, informed consent of the receiver, lightly, you can lay your hands on their head, very gently, very lightly, and invite the Divine to pour the Flowering Heart Blessing through you. Then just get out of the way and feel what happens. Watch what happens. It's all the work of the Divine. We don't hold some special visualization or prayer or mantra or anything like that. It's the Divine doing it, just using us as instruments. So you're all in the flow now, so you can join us. If you come from another group that has its own blessing or Diksha or Shaktipat or something like that, please feel free. If it's coming from the divine, and its purpose is to awaken people and bring them into oneness with Source, please feel free to share your blessing with us, and just do it throughout this webcast. Just invite the divine to pour through you to all the other participants that are with us this evening, and the larger number that will be joining us in the days ahead. The people who come and tune into these recordings are actually often more, many times more than what we may have live, because we have people all over the world in different time zones and with different kinds of responsibilities. So we're sending blessing to them because this is spirit, and spirit is unbounded by time or space. So someone could tune into this recording a year from now and they would feel exactly the same field of presence and energy that we're all sharing in. It's really nice that way. So after the questions and answers, we will share some very focused intention blessings for the needs that you brought with you personally tonight, the people you may be carrying in your heart. And then we'll conclude with the open eye light meditation. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Well, we don't have any questions yet, but we'll wait a few minutes. In the meantime, John Lewis said, "Good evening, everyone. I absolutely loved yesterday's service." Thank you. We kind of enjoyed it too.
Yeah, it was really good.
And
if you didn't get a chance to watch it, it's on Facebook and other places as well.
It was entitled "Lay Up Treasures in Heaven." And what an interesting meditation that was. Like, where's heaven? When is heaven? What treasures? How do you do that? And it was moving. I just go before the divine when I prepare for those monthly interfaith communions with the Cosmic Christ and say, well, what do you want me to say to the people? And the divine always shows me. It's amazing. I'd be in trouble if the divine didn't. But the divine is always willing to communicate with us when we ask for guidance. And I think yesterday's message showed us how to open ourselves to receive the tangible things that we need and want in this life, in this world right now. And so a little misleading, lay up treasures in heaven, because heaven is right here, right now. Basically, Christ's teaching was literally, wake up. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's right here, right now. Wake up to it. And so our meditation yesterday really focused on how to do that, and why we may not have been able to receive or to manifest the kinds of things that we've been looking for in our lives. That other people told us, all you got to do is learn the laws of manifestation. You can make it all happen. There's a little bit more to it than that. So anyway, you might enjoy it. And I'm wondering if we're going to have any questions tonight.
I've been playing around with something this week. I know I mention frequently that there's many ways to give or be of service, and one thing I frequently mention is, it's too loud.
You got a new battery.
I did.
It's giving you more juice.
Yeah, I'll talk like this.
No, don't worry about it.
One of the things that I usually mention is, it doesn't take any really extra effort to just smile at somebody throughout the day, and I've been increasing that consciousness a lot more consciously. And when I'm out in public, if I'm walking through a parking lot or I'm next to somebody in the car, or I've just been really, really conscious of smiling more, and like a genuine smile that, not just like, hi, but really like connecting with the person. And it's been fun to watch, because I think a lot of times we're so caught up in what the task that we're doing and the errand we're running or our job or our work that we forget to connect with other people. And so I've been really extra connecting and extra smiling this week. And it's been great to see. I mean, it'll just be some guy walking through the parking lot and I'll smile at him. And some people actually get taken aback. Like, they get confused for a second. They get this look on their face like, why is she smiling? And then they go, oh, and then they smile back, and it just kind of like puts them on tilt for a second and gives them a different, adjustment period. So it's been really fun. If you want to take on that challenge, it's been great too, because then we're more aware of our environment. We're more aware of those that we're around each day. And everybody would love a smile and would love some kindness from a stranger. So it's really enhanced the quality of my life, and just, doing somewhat could be expressed as mundane tasks, but it's been great.
Well, it releases your divine self. The light within, shines freely through a smile.
Yeah.
And so it's actually a form of yoga, smile yoga.
Smile yoga, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed it too, like if I'm in a store and connecting with the employees, boy, they've been so busy because shipments have been behind, and the shelves, and it's just been crazy, and they're just really, really working hard to get the stuff out there. And I've noticed that they're really grateful when I say things like, thank you for all of your hard work, and this is a really big task, and I appreciate your job and what you do, and it makes them feel good, because most times they just kind of go unnoticed unless you're asking where something is in the store.
We have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Yay. Boy.
Well, first, Kenneth says, I like the part from yesterday about it is us that put up the blocks from receiving blessings from the divine. I mean, clearly, it's the divine is freely giving everything without restraint. That's what we discover in the journey, is the divine's never been holding back. There's never been any separation. It's the receiving end that's had the trouble. When we thought maybe the universe or the divine was holding back on us because we weren't pure enough, or we weren't, karmic free enough, or we weren't evolved enough, or just not enough. And it turns out that was never the case. It's necessary to open up and receive the unconditional love of the divine to begin to transform it all. I mean, and it's always being given.
It just came into mind when you said that, as it's kind of like the divine is the electrical outlet, and we keep like turning on a blender or an appliance or something, and it's not even plugged in, and we're going, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? This is supposed to do something. And we forget that we need to plug into source. We need to, actually hook up.
And receive.
Divine, and receive, because the electricity is always at the outlet. We just don't remember to plug it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Ramona. Hi, Ramona. Ramona says, I love you both so much. Sending love, hugs, and kisses to you both. Thank you for your continued service of love and light to humanity, my dear friends.
Aww.
And thank you for yours, Ramona.
Yeah, you too.
Glad you're in the world. Okay. So here's a string this is over on Vimeo, so you'll have to listen, those of you that are on Facebook, unless you've got Vimeo tuned in as well. Jennifer says, I was raised in a legalistic religion that had mental illness poured on it at home. Boy, I get that. Yeah, brief background, parentheses. We were taught that there can be no prayer until some absolution, forgiveness, cleansing took place first, before any other petition presented to Spirit. That's question part one. Part two. Okay, So I'm treating my meditation practice as prayer. And the need for purification at first gets me hung up, and I can't ever get to anything else. Part 3. An ordained Presbyterian, not sure of the title, told me recently this part isn't necessary, and prayer doesn't even need to be necessarily articulated in words at all. So true. Final. What are your thoughts, wisdom, on the necessity to approach the throne of God only after being... Okay, weirdly, I think you're answering this question without having seen it yet. Laughing out loud, thinking, that's the way it works. Yeah. Condolences, but I'm sure any number of us could say we were raised in a legalistic religion. Whether it was a fundamentalist evangelical Christian religion, or strict Catholicism, or strict Hinduism, Buddhism, sadly, as it turns out, after traveling the world and experiencing some of the world's great religions on their own home turf, they've all got similar problems, a certain legalism and a priestly class. They don't, in evangelical Christianity, don't call them priests, call them elders. Priest comes from presbyteros, a word that just means elder. So anyway, you've got this sort of ruling class of spiritual leaders that tell you what you need to do to be saved. Now, it's put differently in Buddhism. If you will pray Om Mani Padme Hum 108,000 times while circumambulating around this structure and prostrating and you do this and get it done, you will be liberated and you'll attain nirvana.
Or exhaustion.
Well, that's for sure. But it's similar because people use these beads and they're listening to this priestly caste who's telling them about these rituals and ritual repetition, counting on beads that will lead to liberation. Not much different than the rosary. Nothing against it. I mean, people have beautiful experiences. I love chanting Om Mani Padme Hum while counting beads carved out of yak bone. I mean, in fact, I keep it right here. We can do a little if you want. A friend of mine brought this back from Tibet, and first I thought creepy, and then I thought as the years have gone by, it's cooler and cooler. Okay, but we have some rosary beads over here, and people I know have powerful mystical experiences praying the rosary. I could mention the name of some spiritual beings. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to embarrass anybody, who were mystical Catholics before they discovered the Eastern paths and went on to some other spiritual teacher or oneness or something like that, who spent years and years praying the rosary as a way of accessing contemplative consciousness. Contemplative prayer. Contemplative prayer is when the soul passes beyond what can be expressed in words and specific actions and is just taken up by the presence to itself. And really all vocal prayer, someone would disagree with me probably if they were Baptist, but in my understanding, and more Protestants are discovering this too, that vocal prayer leads to contemplative silent prayer, that is rapture in the presence, which rapture is to be, it's also called ecstasy. Ek is a Greek word that means out. It's also Sanskrit for out. Ecstasy is to be caught out of yourself. And rapture is to be taken up out of yourself in a sense, because where are you going to go? But it's like that. It's like being lifted above yourself into and dissolved in oneness with the divine. And it's a very beautiful thing, the contemplative path. And it's in all the different religions. But we've got to get past the the slavery to specific rituals and forms. They may be very helpful. Like I said, I have this one dear friend who prayed the rosary every day for 30 years. He's in a very highly awakened state now. Was it because of the rosary? Well, it didn't hurt. It wasn't because of the rosary. But the rosary was taking him deeper and deeper and deeper into union with the divine presence. It's the divine that makes it happen. So, when they tell you that you can't approach the divine in prayer until you've received absolution, is to be released from the effect of misdeeds. It's like, we could use that horrible word sin, which just means to miss the bullseye. It's so silly to make it like it's something terrible. When someone's trying to become a skilled archer, they're aiming for the bullseye, and they use all their skill and all their aim, and it's off a half inch. That's hamartia in Greek, which is translated sin, and that's just terrible because you never learn or grow unless you try and make mistakes along the way. And the divine's not upset about that. The divine is unconditional love. That means no conditions attached. How can we say you can't approach the divine until you're absolved, released from your sin or your karma, and completely cleansed of the effects of those actions in time? Until that's all cleansed and you're released from it, you can't approach the divine any further.
I think I'd be dead before that happened.
Well, we all would be. But basically that would be saying, because, even I'm not sure what religion you were talking about, but take Christianity. The Christ said, if anyone is thirsting, spiritually thirsting, let them come to me and drink and keep no one away. Now, the only way you can get clear and grow is to receive those living waters, that grace, that light that's being shined from the divine source into you, to you. It wouldn't be unconditional love if we said, you can have some more of this love if you do this and if you don't do that. Those are conditions. It's unconditional. And, those really legalistic religions tell people, God will accept you just as you are. But now that you're here...
It's a big but in there.
but now that you're here, you got to do this, and this, and you can never do this, that, or the other thing, or you're not okay, and the divine's going to hold you at arm's length. That's not unconditional love, and it's harder and harder for me to see as the years go by why that isn't obvious to religious people.
I also think too that the flowering heart path is getting to those awarenesses, and it's really beautiful that you even notice it and that you're grappling with it, because it's not until we see our programming that we can start to look for other ways of being that aren't following strict protocol or programming that we grew up with that might not be so healthy for us. And so when we notice stuff like that, good job, kudos, because now you're able to see, I have this belief system and it's creating a barrier from myself in connection with my divine self. So when we start to see those things, it's a big breakthrough, and we can just dive right in. And also we can also see where we're not loving ourselves enough to just have an open connection with the divine source. So the divine source is within us already and wants to just be there for you and love you unconditionally. And until we get these blocks in our thinking cleared up, it does make it a lot harder. It's like we don't even know where to look for the outlet to plug in. But it's good that you were aware of it and sharing that. Thank you.
I have a friend, he's an ordained minister now, but he grew up in a very legalistic fundamentalist family. And it did so much damage to him that he ended up founding out in California a 12-step group called Fundamentalists Anonymous. and where the people could help each other recognize these destructive patterns in programming. But another one that leaps out at me is Therese of Lisieux, on the Catholic side of things. She was one of the great saints in the Catholic tradition. All kinds of miracles around Therese of Lisieux. Very well-known saint. You can Google her if you're interested. But she had a little method. The little method of Therese was, she said to the Lord, I'm too dumb and too weak and too unwise to know how to get from where I am to where you are. I don't have the strength or the grace or the wisdom. I'm just a dumb little thing. Come help me. And so that's exactly what the divine did. The divine just said, okay. And the divine took her into the transforming union, into the highest recognized level of divine union and transformation in the mystical Catholic tradition. And all kinds of wonderful things expressed through her life and ongoing. People still experience miracles when they connect with her. But the thing to realize is that only the divine can do it. So when you're there and you're stuck, whether it's in meditation or your meditation is a prayer, it's really very simple. If your meditation focuses somewhere, if there's the intention of oneness with the divine source, that is a prayer. And you can't do it. I mean, there are all kinds of methods, all kinds of yogas, all kinds of spiritual practices in the Christian tradition, the Buddhist, the Taoist, all of them, the shaman, but none of them get you there, because it's all a gift of grace. Ultimately, spiritual practices do help. They help us to clean up and get strengthened and focused and all that. One of the great spiritual teachers today is Ken Wilber, and he's got this book on integral enlightenment. But basically he said, first you wake up, then you clean up, then you grow up and you show up. You know, I meant I'd have had that all in the right order, but interestingly, waking up comes first. The touch of grace. You wouldn't even want to clean up your routine unless you'd been touched by the light. And so that same light that touched you and showed you how you need to grow and where there are areas that we could change and streamline our lives to be more in alignment with Spirit. The same light, the same Spirit that showed us that truth is the one that will help us to do it. And that's why just surrendering to the presence, more and more people are just practicing the presence. Their meditation isn't counting breaths or repeating prayers or mantras or anything like that. It's just invoke the presence and just keep relaxing and opening and resting in the presence. And the presence does the work.
It's funny because we tend to think that we're in control of our relationships with the divine, but what thinks it's in control is actually just the ego and the mind, and it's the heart that has that direct communication, and that's when it can open up even more, which for me, a big part of the spiritual path has been humility. Like that beautiful little prayer, you know, I'm just this little thing and help me. And I don't know how to get to you and I want to get to you. And I find that the more that we awaken and grow, the more humble we get, because we start to realize that was all coming from ego and the mind. And so we start to soften and not needing to be right all the time, though Michael would probably disagree with me saying that.
What, that we don't need to be right all the time?
Yeah.
Well, I hope we don't, because I'm almost never right.
No, I was talking about myself.
Oh, okay.
Saying you might disagree.
So Jennifer further says, thank you, tremendously helpful. As I was typing all that, I heard you basically answering it to someone else's question or comment. This was all extremely helpful. And yes, trying to get past the absolution to the ability to pray, meditate on anything else, made me unable to get to anything else.
Yeah. Be gentle with yourself. Change takes time. I've got that on a greeting card somebody gave me once, and I have it framed in a frame above my dresser. I see it every morning.
One of the scriptures that we focused on yesterday was Psalm 103, the first 5 verses. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thine iniquities. Guess what? It's too late. You're already forgiven. The trick is to receive the forgiveness and stop judging ourselves.
Yeah.
And what does God get mad? No, it's not like that. It's the karma that we set in motion. It's certain actions we've taken that unleash certain things that are unfolding that need to stop. And however you look at it, the divine forgives all of that, who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases, who redeemeth thy life from destruction, who crowns thee with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfies your mouth with good things, so that your youth is renewed as the eagles. The divine wants to satisfy your desire, your hunger, the true hunger of your spirit. But, yeah, it's... See, some of the churches and religions tried to make it tough. In order for you to get absolution, release from your mistakes, you're going to have to come through a human hierarchy that will tell you whether you passed the grade or not. Well, I just want you to tonight just receive freedom. You are unconditionally loved by the divine, and the divine is not judging you. We judge ourselves. That's where it all got turned around. That's the rub. So many people are having trouble with a divine creator that makes laws and passes judgment. Well, they should have trouble with that, because that isn't what it's all about. You know, the divine is the one that's trying to say, look, there's this thing called gravity, and if you insist on jumping off the top of that mountain, you're going to get hurt. So if you jump off the mountain and get hurt, you can't blame the divine. The divine is the one that's going to swoop in and catch you on the way and say, oh, come on, let's try this again. It was interesting, before I forget, to see a name that I haven't brushed up with in years. We haven't. Vijaya Kopila.
I'd have to see a picture.
Well, he's the one that prayed the Ganesha mantra 10 gajillion times for hundreds of people, and made a real switch in his career path. Now you remember?
No.
Vijaya. I took stacks of cards and hid them in a thatched roof over there
right.
on Campus One.
Yeah.
but no, he did an amazing work. And this is going back 15 years.
Yeah.
Where he took it upon himself to take one of those prayer forms. That's very, very liberating to do that for anyone that wanted to. And he did it unceasingly for months.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Nice.
Anyway, great to see your name if you're still there. Okay. John Lewis says, when I had my first spiritual experience, it didn't matter whatever I had done and what was done to me. It was all taken away. Pure love and power. Yeah. And that's beautiful. There's so many different experiences people can have. There are spiritual experiences where the divine shows you how many people you've hurt. That one was very life-changing. The divine showed me all the people I had hurt in my lifetime, and it broke my heart. But the monk I was working with at the time, who was a Hindu monk, was in India, said, Michael, you could never be so insensitive again, could you? And I went, no, not now that I see and felt the pain in the hearts of the people that I had hurt through my insensitivity. And he said, that's the deal. By facing it and by experiencing the pain that you've caused others, it makes your heart sensitive and open, and it changes you. And now you're free. You're free from that karma. And he'd been telling me for over and over and over again, there's no way out, there's no way out, there's no way out. What you sow, you're going to reap many times over. And I'd say, what about Jesus? Say, shut up. I said, what about Gayatri? That's a Hindu aspect of deity that consumes karma. He said, Michael, shut up. It wasn't until I got to the point, it was a spiritual experience actually of seeing what was at work through my life that had hurt so many people, that I was free. And yes, there was no judgment. It was all love from the divine. But that love required that I wake up and take a look in the mirror. That's part of cleaning up and growing up, which does come on the path of awakening. Yeah, that's a great point though, John. And that's the ultimate truth, is that all of that burden is taken away, and we discover it's just pure love. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that was great.
Great, yeah.
Thank you so much. And notice that when one person poses a question or a comment, that it speaks to someone else's situation. We're all touched by what you ask or what you share, because we're really just one of us here helping each other, go home. Okay. Loved it.
Which is right here.
Which is right here. It's right here.
Right now.
Where else would we go? Into all those distractions that try to draw us off into fantasy land. Okay. But we're not buying that. What we are going to do is all close our eyes and dive into the heart of your being and invite the divine presence who dwells within you to flood you with grace, to pour out the flowering heart blessing within you, to awaken you, to heal your soul and your body and your relationships, to make your life a living vessel of grace. This presence loves you just as you are, more than we can imagine we are loved. This divine is all wise and all powerful, all love, yearns to free us, to transform us, to bless us. This divine presence knows exactly what you need tonight, or what that situation, that problem or burden you brought with you to the satsang. The divine knows exactly what to do about that. So simply invoke the divine presence. You're free to ask for help, but the divine already knows that. So simply open to receive. divine is working on you and your situation, if you want to turn it up and let it be even more powerful, then with your eyes still closed, visualize us sitting in a blessing circle together, all of us. Lift up your hands with your palms open, turned forward, and invite the presence to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all the other participants, into all of their needs and situations, as they do the same for you. Now you can just relax, and as soon as you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just make sure that you're focusing on and connecting with at least one of our eyes during the remainder of the meditation. During the light meditation, we are flooded with divine grace. The divine begins to pour it through every fiber, every pore of our being, oceans of love and awakening, transforming grace, especially through our eyes, which have been called the doorways of the soul. If you just keep looking, nothing else to do, that light will stream in through your eyes into your spiritual heart, causing the fires of love, awakening, and transformation in you to rise up and burn brighter and brighter and brighter. Just keep looking and receive. Close your eyes now. Meditate with us for a few more moments as the grace we've received settles within us. Now keep meditating as long as you'd like to, or find a place nearby and lie in Shavasana. That's lying on your back, with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with the palms open, turned upward, just letting yourself dissolve in gratitude in the presence. It's a very beautiful practice. You should try it if you haven't. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings until we connect again.
Until the next time, the divine in us sees the divine in you, and we bow to you. Namaste.
Namaste.